Welcome to the second part of our Neighbourhood Policing Public Assurance meeting. I'm Ndiweni-Roberts, your Police and Crime Commissioner here in Derbyshire. My role is to hold the Chief Constable Rachel Swan and Derbyshire Constabulary to account on your behalf. As your elected representative, it's vital that I work closely with the police to ensure they are delivering on the priorities that matter to you most. The first part of this meeting is available as a detailed report on my website. It includes a comprehensive overview from the force on how neighbourhood policing is being delivered in our communities. I review and scrutinise this report and, when necessary, challenge the Chief Constable and her senior leadership team. The second part of the meeting is your opportunity to have your say. Residents have submitted questions to the Chief Constable, and I'll be asking a selection of those questions today. I've tried to make this process as open and as accessible as possible, so thank you to everyone who took the time to submit a question. Your input keeps our communities informed and engaged with the work that the police are doing in our neighbourhoods. These meetings are designed to shine a light on the priorities chosen by you, and these can be found in the Police and Crime Plan. Some of the questions submitted require further investigation or a follow-up, and we will respond to those in writing. Neighbourhood policing is a government priority, and it is also a priority for residents across Derbyshire. But before I hear from the Chief, I will be joined by the Assistant Chief Constable, Michelle Shooter, who will provide an update on the force's efforts in this area, but also leads in neighbourhood policing here in Derbyshire and is the national lead for neighbourhood policing on behalf of the National Police Chiefs Council. So let's begin. So thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. It will be really good to get your take on neighbourhood policing and how we are performing as a force here in Derbyshire.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess thank you for inviting me to talk today around a topic that I'm really passionate about. So there is some data I want to talk about, so I apologise first and foremost that I will probably look down a few times around the data. So I'll just give you a brief overview, but obviously on your website there is a comprehensive report, 40 plus pages long, yes, that I'm trying to condense into obviously a short briefing here. But this is how the Constabulary is addressing your priority 3 in your police and crime plan, which is neighbourhood policing. So I just want to start with some of the strategic direction and some of the national context. So we know neighbourhood policing is the cornerstone of British policing, and I don't think there's any doubt in that, both from a leadership perspective or within the evidence base. The Neighbourhood Policing Guarantee is obviously a new initiative launched by this current Labour government, and it's part of the broader Safer Streets mission. And the element where the Neighbourhood Guarantee features is the pillar that talks about restoring trust and confidence in policing and the wider criminal justice system. But it clearly links into the other pillars of that mission. So there's 5 pillars to the guarantee. So I just want to, one, say what they are, and then just very briefly say what the Constabulary is doing to meet the particular pillars. So the first pillar is around putting police back on the beat. So that pillar, as a Constabulary, we've received £2.8 million, as you're aware, in terms of creating an additional capacity within our neighbourhood team. So that will fund an additional 35 police officers that our local communities will see in neighbourhoods across Derbyshire, in the county and the city, by the end of this financial year. And that is obviously part of the government's broader 13,000 uplift commitment. The second pillar is around being community-led. So that a lot of work's been going on around what people will have seen in the local media around named contactable officer. And I'll just come on to that a bit after this, because we've been doing lots of work recently in terms of that. The third pillar is the neighbourhood policing pathway. And that's around creating a specialism and seeing neighbourhood policing as a true specialism in policing and ensuring our staff are equipped and trained. Obviously, Derbyshire, we were one of the 11 pilot forces. Mm-hmm. We continue to be a pilot force for phase 2, but more importantly, during Neighbourhood Policing Week in June this year, the national rollout of the MPP was committed to and commenced across the country. So that means all neighbourhood officers are getting a consistent training package in terms of what we expect them to do in local communities.
That's good to hear.
The fourth pillar is around antisocial behaviour. So every force has had to identify a strategic lead to lead on antisocial behaviour. We have a senior officer in our prevention and partnerships team, that will be our strategic lead, and work is currently ongoing to the commitment along with partners, because there's a very clear drive towards partners being engaged in tackling antisocial behaviour and the crime we see on our streets. Okay. Every force will need to publish an action plan by the 1st of April 2026. So our force, there's currently meetings going on around how we can share good practice across the country and build those collective action plans that we will then launch locally here in Derbyshire. And the 5th pillar is around town centres and the safer streets work around the summer. So, and that's really focused on increasing visibility, tackling ASB and tackling street crime. So each force, including ours, has a full programme of events between the end of June to the end of September. There are 3 reporting periods, and that again is partnership and police driven. Okay. That's about really being visible and engaging in the 11 towns that have been identified across Derbyshire and agreed with the Home Office. So the first reporting period is due mid-August, so I look forward to then seeing those results, and we'll clearly put something out to the public at that point. I think it's fair to say in Derbyshire we still do have a strong neighbourhood footprint. We still have one of the strongest headcounts per population around PCSOs, so I think it's a really positive that the Chief and yourself as your office have continued to look at investing in neighbourhood policing. So I'll just go back to named contactable officer. So this has just been launched at the end of June. So every area in Derbyshire now has a named contactable officer as part of a Safer Neighbourhood team. And the public can see this on our website. And they can put their postcode in, go to their neighbourhood, and they will see an image and the names and a biography in terms of their local Safer Neighbourhood team. The second element to the named contactable officer is that we will refresh and review and publish local priorities every 3 months. So every quarter they will also be on our website. And that is coupled with the recent refresh that we're just about to launch around our minimum standards of engagement, okay, and also a new residents' voice, new residents talking community survey. So they will all be coming to build into refreshing those priorities. And then the last bit in terms of the website is that we will now start to publish all our engagement events looking forward by at least a month, but hopefully up to 3 months. So people and public and businesses can see straight away where they can go and engage with police officers or PCSOs in their local community. So the last bit that we're still working through is that part of this guarantee is that neighbourhood queries will be dealt with within 72 hours. But I need to be really clear here because this is really confusing. If it's an incident or a crime, that will be dealt with through normal means, and we will obviously do our threat, harm, risk and our Thrive assessment. This is about local queries through our Contact Us page. Okay. So they will aim to be dealt with in 72 hours. So that went live at the end of June, and we're obviously still evaluating that particular process. So lots going on in the neighbourhood guarantee space. I just want to talk about hotspot policing. So when our teams are targeting antisocial behaviour and violence, obviously we are a hotspot funded force. We're in year 3 of that funding. So this year, 19 hotspot locations across the county and city. 14 of those are mainly focused on ASB, but 5 of those focus not only on ASB, but serious violence and knife crime. And that is all data driven and approved with the Home Office. And I just want to touch on a few achievements really around that hotspot work, because we are seen as an exemplar force in the work that we've been doing and the teams have been doing. So there's been over 18,800 additional patrol hours delivered, over 105,000 community engagements, over 350 arrests, over 405 stop searches. ASB is reduced by 45% over the period. There's been a 36% drop in ASB in our hotspot areas between April and May 25. And I guess more importantly, because this is what the evidence base would suggest around hotspot policing, we've had a 12% overall reduction in crime in our hotspot areas, and that's set against a 2% force-wide reduction. So clearly the evidence around hotspot policing not only reduces ASB, but also other crime types. And we track our officer time using a technology called VisiBeat, And we're hoping to soon publish Visibi and patrol activity via our website so the public can see where the officers have been. So some really good practice there. Our SNTs do lots and lots of good work, and one of their key elements of work, and there's lots in the report that's on your website,
Yes.
is around protecting the vulnerable. So I just want to pull out a few things that they've been doing. So Community Speed Watch is a key one for our SNTs. So we have 97 groups across Derbyshire, 850 volunteers, and last year alone we did 1,134 sessions of road safety activity using Community Speed Watch. That resulted in almost 10,000 letters being sent out to drivers who had obviously exceeded the speed. Our SNT have been supporting our domestic abuse teams, doing a smart water trial, and in one particular case, smart water helped secure a 32-week prison sentence and a 10-year stalking prevention order. So these are new innovative activities the SNT are doing. And then we've been running a project in the Abbey Ward at Derby with Redeeming Our Communities, and that aims at increasing our reach to those seldom heard communities and really trying to empower communities to try and tackle problems with us. So the project has its own task force of community leaders. It's delivered funding, so we've been able to fund a dedicated leader so they can become self-sufficient. It's delivered a Christmas fair, burger initiatives, street cleans, and lots of engagement. And we map that through a problem-solving plan, and that's been sent for consideration in terms of the outcomes to the National Tilly Awards in terms of problem solving. E-scooters, the favourite topic in terms of neighbourhood policing. I know there's some public questions around e-scooters, but the SNTs have really been supporting our road policing teams in a significant amount of seizures around e-scooters across the city and county. And obviously the powers are extended to PCSOs to do that work. Just touching on problem solving and prevention, a really key area for us. So we are strengthening our approach to problem solving and prevention with a total restructure of our prevention department. This includes a new refreshed strategic and tactical board to ensure problem solving expands across the organisation. But over the last year alone, we have opened 88 problem solving plans, primarily related to ASB. There's been some good initiatives, for example, at Hena Marketplace, and there's an example in the PAM report. We've received 47% fewer calls attributed to those problem-solving plans, and there's been a 73% non-reoffending rate of those attributed to the plan. So it's clearly something we want to build moving forward. So that's really all I want to touch on in the neighbourhood policing sphere, but I'm conscious in the report also talks about the force control room.
Yes.
So I'll just spend another minute talking about the force control room, if I may. So this is really important in terms of the gateway into our organisation and then how we manage that contact as it moves through the organisation. So there's been significant investment in both technology, redesigning processes, designing our operating model and changing some of our staffing structures to improve the way the public can contact us. Some of the key ones that have really made a difference that I see, so the introduction of performance and demand managers on every team, just ensuring there's a continual review of our performance and what the demand's looking like, and a dedicated analyst in the department. So we are really now drilling into being a data-driven decision-making organisation at that front end, which is really helping in terms of unblocking some of the challenges. The introduction of auto-caller distribution has been a key enabler to improving our emergency and non-emergency performance. And I just want to reflect on a couple of years. So in terms of emergency call performance, so your 999s, if you look at 2021-22, average ring time 8.8 seconds, the target is 10 seconds. And we had a 74% answered in 10 seconds where the target is 90%. So 10 seconds to answer. Yeah. 90%. In 24-25, the ring time reduced to 4.7 seconds and a 95.8 within 10 seconds. And that puts us 6th highest in the country. So some big strides in terms of our emergency call performance. In terms of our 101s, our non-emergency, demand continues to increase. But again, a snapshot. So in 2021, average ring time, 392 seconds. with a almost 30% abandonment rate, which is a real risk for us. In 24-25, that reduced to a ring time of 185 seconds, and the abandonment dropped to just over 10%, which is getting better. With the introduction of the technology I've discussed, first quarter of this year, so 2025, our average ring time is between 58 and 78 seconds, which is phenomenal. And our abandonment rate is around 4.5%, which again is really, really positive. Significant progress. We have a strong digital contact offering that includes Good SAM, so video calls to the public, and we have a live chat facility. And I guess my plea to the public is, it's not a robot, it's not a chat bot. You will be talking to a real person to deal with issues, and we are seen as a shining star across the country in terms of our digital offering. So a real positive for us. And we are looking at how we deal with our repeated demands. So the control room now are looking at problem-solving plans around repeat callers, repeat locations, and repeat organisations. So there's lots and lots going on in the space. I know I've gone on longer than I would normally do, but I think it shows how committed Derbyshire Constabulary are to delivering a local service to local people, and also trying to manage risk appropriately at that front door of the organisation.
No, I really appreciate the breakdown of all the work that you're doing, and obviously that national focus on neighbourhood policing is really helpful when you're trying to deliver locally, and that backed up with resources to do so is also really helpful on the ground. I guess listening to residents as well, and looking at the backdrop of where we are in the city and county with recent events that have been happening, I guess what assurances from the public's perspective, because it sounds really positive. There's some really short-term things that we're doing that are going to increase trust and confidence. So I really welcome, the website, people being able to see who their designated police officer, PCSO, SNT team are. So please use that feature on the website to find out, because I know that's something that people have been saying, well, who is my neighbourhood officer? There is now an opportunity to do so. So please do. So there are some really quick wins that we could get into play. We have already received funding for our extra police officers, which I welcome, you welcome.
Absolutely.
And I know the residents welcome, because that visibility, we need more resource to be as visible as our residents would like us to be. But we know you'll start to feel the difference more towards the end of the year due to training, etc. So it is that public trust and confidence piece, because genuinely speaking, I know through the work that the constabulary are doing, looking at all the figures and the report, that there's a lot of positive work going on and a lot of progress. I mean, it has been a challenging time across the board, so I acknowledge that as well. But how do we get that across to people who are listening, where they're going, well, this sounds really good, but I don't still feel safe. Their perceptions of safety, especially in this season, aren't where we'd want them to be for a number of reasons. So I think we're definitely taking steps in the right direction. Some of this stuff will take a bit of time, so important for us to manage expectations for members of the public. We aren't in the space that we used to be with resources, so it might feel a little different to what you think it should be. But I guess, what should they expect? What difference should they expect to feel, and when? And I guess a bit more of that perspective from you, from a public view.
I mean, we do have challenges. We have challenges with summer peak demand, and we're seeing unprecedented levels of demand at this moment in time, which does really stretch our resource levels. And our neighbourhood teams are still committed, but sometimes they do have to get deflected into other higher priority calls for service. I think what we will see is a renewed focus on minimising abstraction. So I want neighbourhood officers in their neighbourhoods at all times that they can be in their neighbourhoods. I want to enhance our engagement offering with the public. But I also think there's a role for partners to play in this, because sometimes we come in at the end and pick up we can respond, and we can deal with offenders, we can get outcomes. We do a lot in the preventative space. I think the work we're already doing with some of the county and city partners is really building some strength. But I think that joint approach and that place-based approach in key areas across the county, I think that will bring some real strong positive feedback, positive initiatives, and hopefully some more engagement with members of the public. I guess those people who don't normally engage with us, and we all see comments on Facebook, when we put media articles out, there's a raft of comments, some really balanced, some on one end of the spectrum, some on other. You know, I'd really encourage those that don't usually engage or perhaps don't know what we do to go to our website, have a look at what we do, go to one of the engagement events. And because that is where we're going to make a difference, and be able to say what our limitations are, but also what the public can expect.
No, I completely agree with you, and thank you for that clarity on that piece, because it is a contract between policing and the public, and it is a two-way street. I always say that when I'm out and about speaking to residents and community groups, you know, we work well when you're talking to us, and vice versa when we're talking to you, and people are talking and listening. So I think there's a real opportunity as we rebuild and look at this renewed focus, as you mentioned, that we do it together, because there'll be things that we do, and if they're not working, we want to hear from the public. We want to get their feedback and actually shape it to deliver in communities. And where things are working, like some of the work, like you've mentioned in regards to hotspot policing, immediate justice, we've seen that these things work, and when they do work, we want to do more of that.
Absolutely.
So I think it's definitely for us to continue working with members of the public, but really appreciate your views on neighbourhood policing, and thank you very much for going into a bit more detail, whilst also providing a summary of the 40-page report. But no, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.